All right. Hey, everybody. See a few people hanging out. Thanks for joining in. And good to hang with you guys on a Friday evening. It's beautiful here in Detroit. Hope you're enjoying your week and getting ready for the weekend. And I haven't done a live stream in a long time, so I figured a cool topic that would be really accessible for everybody would be some pentatonic deep dives and some stuff we can do to expand our range and what we can do, where we can do it, and yeah, we'll get into it all here. So there are a couple main things that I thought I would hit on here, one of which will be some ideas I have for how to transition really smoothly between positions. That's one of the main things I wanted to hit on and give some different ideas about that. Another thing to dig into I thought that could be helpful would be adding some modal tones to your pentatonic scale. Using the scale is kind of a skeleton, and then we can fill stuff in. It really makes using modes a lot easier, so you don't feel like you're memorizing a bunch of different scale patterns. So that's the second main topic I wanted to hit on. And then also in every position that you're playing in, there are arpeggios that can correspond with whatever you're doing, and it's really helpful to be able to see those and see where they lay out on the guitar. So I'm going to hit on some of that stuff, and we'll just kind of let it flow, and then I'm going to leave some time if people have questions or or comments on how they approach pentatonic stuff. It can be a fun conversation to see how other people think of things. So here we go. Let's get right into it. So I'm going to share this. Oh, and I did want to say this too. If you, whoever's sticking around to the end, I've got a little something for you. So hang out. After the questions, I'll drop a little something for you guys, a little download. And I'm going to have some PDFs that I'm going to reference. There's a link in the description that you can get all of them. You'll see the titles of these, or I'll say the titles of them, and you can find there's a bunch of worksheets I have available, jam tracks and stuff like that. Okay, so the first thing I want to share, I got to kind of cue this up here, is this concept of creating different hinge points between your positions of the pentatonic scale. So I'll have this up for a second. If you do happen to go and get the PDF, this one's called Pentatonic Hinges. So the idea here is, oh, right on. Maurice is over on the Elevated Improv. That's my other channel in my online course. He's going to be hanging here too. Good to see you, Maurice. Shoot, I lost my train of thought. We're going to go through all the different ways we can change positions. And here we go. So I'm going to unshare this for a second and go back to a close-up, and I'll tell you what I am, or I'll explain what I'm talking about here. So in that worksheet, I used F minor pentatonic as the reference, and the only reason I did that was because we can really easily traverse an octave up and down with this concept. So I'm going to show a couple different examples of this, but I'm going to keep things moving and then kind of just plant seeds, and then you guys can kind of take it and run with it. So, I'm not going to go through teaching all the 5 positions, I'm assuming a lot of people have had some work with that, and so I'm kind of I'm presupposing you have that part down here. So let's take the very first part of the minor pentatonic, and then what we're going to do is practice playing the first 2 notes of that, and then immediately sliding up into the second position. Okay, right on. Joshua's watching from Eugene, Oregon. Man, thanks for hanging out. So cool. It's such a trip. I gotta already I gotta pop back in. It's so cool that we live in a time where we can hang out with each other like this. Just a bunch of fans working on music. Man, I really appreciate you hanging out with me, Joshua. So right on. Yeah, let me know whoever's hanging. Where are you guys at? What are you guys working on? What do you guys like to do with your pentatonic stuff? This isn't just a lesson. This is a hangout. We're just hanging and sharing some info. So here, let me go back over here. First position, we're sliding up immediately to the second position of the minor pentatonic. And you can run it back in order like that. But what I think is even kind of a better approach is to start to kind of riff around right away. Like kind of get it musical, so it's not just running up and down the scale, but like there's a little rhythm to it, a little dance. So that would be the first hinge right there, going up and then going back down. Then what we're going to do is the same kind of thing, but now make your hinge on the A string. So we play these 2 notes the same, then immediately slide up like that. Now, it may not seem like a big deal, or a big change, but you'll come up with some different ideas when you transition on one string versus another. You're going to be using a different finger. You might be inclined to do a different kind of slide, or maybe you bend into a note. It just gives you more variety. That's the whole thing I'm trying to get at here, is creating more options. So here's the second one. And again, if you want to take it all the way, you can, run it up the scale, or you can kind of create some riffs. And I'm sorry, it is autofocusing. Okay, right on. So then we're going to just do the same thing, but do it on the D string. So now we run up the same kind of way we normally would, but once we get to the D string, then we practice changing there. Hopefully you see like how many different options you can get from this, and you don't always have to start at the bottom part of your scale. You could start down here. It just immediately gets things moving, it gets things flowing, and I think it just makes things more interesting to have these different hinge points. Then we just take the same idea, but do it with G, slide up. And here, I have to say, another move I like to do is like a little double hinge over here. So like get up to the G, slide up, and I like to use the middle finger here as a hinge to get into this kind of upper structure of that second position, mostly because I'm going to be inclined to bend there. I might be like... So that's a little kind of double move there. So you slide up, slide up. And a little bit later, we'll talk about adding some more flavor and a little more spice to it. Right on. Now I'm just going to keep the train rolling here and do it with the B string. Now here, I would do pinky finger, slide up. If I weren't going to bend, I would do it like that and slide back down and maybe take it back home like that. But if I know ahead of time that I'm probably going to, get a bend going there, I'm probably going to change the finger that I use to make that slide, and I'll use the ring finger and do it like that. So, kind of where you're heading and what your intention is has a lot to do with the finger that you'll use. Or I actually said that the other way around. The finger that you use has a lot to do with where you're heading and what you're trying to do. And then the same thing applies for the E string. We have this kind of wider box shape at the top of that first position. And so I would probably, if I run all the way up to here, I'm probably going to use the ring finger if I know I'm going to slide. So hopefully you kind of get the gist of it. You just, instead of just running up and down and then moving over to second position, run up and down. And I don't mean to say just do that, you know, because that's important. We kind of have to go through those vertical patterns to internalize them and see them. But then what my experience has been is, even though that's really important and it's crucial that we can see that, it isn't always how at least how I approach it when I go to play a solo, and it certainly doesn't seem to be the way Trey approaches it. You know, it's always flowing in different spots. It's never just like running down 6 strings, moving over, running back, and stuff like that. So the idea here, I'm not going to go through all the positions right now because I want to share some other ideas, but the idea here, and this is what I charted out on the worksheet, let me show that again before I play anything else, is I just go through, and I'm not sure if you guys can see the cursor as I'm going here, but you just go through every position. So now I have like second position going from every string. So you do that with all 5 positions, and before you know it, you have a ton of options. So just as a little preview, if I'm starting in second position of F minor pentatonic, I would do the same kind of thing where I start here, and then I immediately slide up to the third position. So you just kind of rinse and repeat the whole process I went through, but just move it up from 2 to 3. And then once you get a good feel for that, go from 3 to 4, and then 4 to 5, and then go from 5 to 1 again, because you'll end up an octave higher than where you started. But I want to take that concept and kind of tweak it a little bit and actually kind of peel it back and simplify it. I'm going to share this other worksheet. Give me a second here. I'm going to switch this over. This one is really short and sweet, but you can take this concept and apply it to a lot of different things. In this one, what I'm going to do is do 2-string groupings, which I think is a really great approach, because realistically, again, I don't think that a lot of us really are thinking in 6-string groupings. You know, usually it's like little clusters of things that we're working on. And so that's what this exercise is. So I'm going to get rid of the worksheet for a second. I'm going to show you guys. And then again, this is in that free worksheet download that's in the description. What's up? Right on, man. Good to see you guys hanging with me. I really appreciate it. Okay, this one here I think is also cool, the thing that I'm about to show, because it takes a 2-string grouping, and in every position you're going to have 4 notes that fit into that position. But then what we're going to do is use the last note to slide down into the next position, or you could be sliding up. It can go in either direction. And so what ends up happening rhythmically is you get 5-note groupings, but we're using 4 notes at a time. I know that might not seem like it makes sense, but hopefully I can tie it together here. So if we come up here, I'm going to, let me see here. I'll do F minor pentatonic because that's what I was just doing. So let's say you're up in first position, but you're an octave higher. How does Trey get that sustain? He's got that languedoc. That's how he does it. All right, here we go. So if we're in first position of the minor pentatonic, what I'm going to do is just the first 2 notes. I'm going to use the ring finger up here because it's so narrow. So just like that. And then I'm going to slide down to the next position. Like that. Then I'm going to kind of pick up where I left off, and then... Whoop, I hit that wrong. Like that. So you get... like that. And then we're going to do the next position down like that. And then... So you get these 5-note groupings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm just creating a little ending. You know, that's another thing. Like if you're doing an exercise, like let's say you're practicing second position of the minor pentatonic, I suggest creating an ending for it so it doesn't just feel like it's ending. It's not that you can't end on the minor third, but make it a musical kind of ending, and it kind of makes the practice more enjoyable. It immediately makes it more just more musical. Yeah, we're getting the Ross compressor name drop already. You're totally right, Maurice. That's what's going on. He's got that compressor, the two tube screamers, and he lets it rip. Okay. So the idea there, though, is that you, instead of thinking of 6-string patterns and like every position of the pentatonic, you take little bite-sized bits of it and start moving it around a little bit, and then doing that with other string groupings. So just like I was doing with the E string and the B string, do the same kind of thing with the B string and the G string, and so on. And you can keep adding. In fact, on another Q&A session I had last night, student Ryan, shout out if Ryan's hanging out. I don't know if he's hanging out tonight, but he was talking about an approach he has where he'll do a similar thing. He'll do a couple strings, add a string. Hey, what's up, John? Good to see you, man. So it's like this gradual building up, and it makes sense because, again, we can only keep track of so many things at a time. So stripping it down and then building it out from there, I think, is a really good strategy. But the main idea is to be able to transition in any spot, like in terms of any string that you're on in any position, I think is really the end goal. And if you really watch what Trey does, that really is what he's doing. He's not like just ripping all 6 strings, sliding over, ripping 6 strings. He's kind of just flowing as he goes. In a minute, I'll put on I've got a loop here, and I'll give more examples as I go and kind of talk through stuff. But yeah, for the changing positions thing, that's one strategy. And I'll give one more that I like to do. Let me go close up again. Let's say you're doing, I'll switch it up. We'll do A minor pentatonic. And so for this one, another way you could do it is ascend all the way with one position. And then at the top of that position, use that as a slide into the next position. And then when you get to the bottom of that position, slide up into the next one. And then slide up and go down from that position, and then slide up. And then you're back where you were. So let me do that really slowly. I'm ascending in the first position, slide up, and then descend in the second position. Then I slide up in the third position, and then go up to the fourth position, but I'm going to descend. And then I'm going to slide up in the fifth position, slide up and descend back to the first position. So that's kind of a cool way to get to know your positions and transitions. So the hinge concept that I was starting with today, it's like that, but for all the strings. So yeah, I just wanted to plant the seed with that in case you've been struggling. And yeah, and I'd love for this to be a conversation, because I'm speaking out a lot of times to people I don't know, and I don't know what the issues could be that you're having, or if you're having any issues at all. So if you guys have stuff that you're wondering about, or questions as they pop up, let me know, and you've got my ear, and I'll answer as best I can. But from what I've heard from people, a lot of times with their playing, they'll say things like, I've got the pentatonic positions down, I know that, I've got it memorized, I had spreadsheets full of these charts and all this kind of stuff, and yet it still sometimes doesn't feel musical. That's the thing I hear over and over. And I think it's because we're doing it in this kind of just from the rote memorization of going through the positions, it just ends up feeling almost like sterile or a little stale that way. And just a little bit of movement really can help cure that. It really can just get things moving, and it helps with the creativity part as well. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to hit on that I think is really maybe one of the most powerful uses of the pentatonic scale is actually to use it as like a foundational thing that you add to. Now, I know that once you add to it, it ceases to be a pentatonic scale technically, but I know that I think of that, like take even the blues scale. I'll go close up again. I'll go, I'm going to go C. I'm going to do like a C blues in a second, or kind of like a funky blues kind of application of this. But, if you're up here and you're doing your C minor pentatonic, let me see here. Here, I'm gonna get back. Sneaky Power is asking, how about applying a sequence to the 5 patterns? Oh, I love that. I'm gonna answer that in a second. I think I know what you mean, and it's one of my favorite ways to practice it. Right on, Nicholas. Thanks so much for hanging, man. Really appreciate it. Okay, so what I was going to say is taking the pentatonic. Okay, so here's our first position of C minor pentatonic. So it's like, okay, that's nice and easy to remember. But even like the blues scale is adding 1 note. You know, you've got that extra tritone you're thrown in there. So even when we do that, I bet most of us are still kind of thinking of the minor pentatonic. Or you guys tell me. I'm still just thinking of the minor pentatonic. I just think of it as just adding, you know, 1 note here or adding 1 note there. But yet, I still use that skeleton form of the pentatonic. So just like we might do that for the blues scale, now what I'm going to do is do that for, let's say, Dorian. You know, one of the main kind of vibes that you'll get into, especially with jammy kind of music, is either like a Dorian vibe or like a mixo-Dorian kind of thing. And I'll get into some of that stuff as we go as well. But instead of, like, this is another thing. Let me pop out of here again. This is another thing where I've seen people have like books of charts of all these scales and all this stuff that they're memorizing. And, you know, it's definitely one way to go, but it feels like so much work. Whereas this other approach, I'll go close up again. Let's take the pentatonic scale. And now think of it like this. Think of a power chord. Okay, so if you can think of that and keep that kind of form in mind, just remember that the 6, the major 6, is always a whole step up from that 5th. You know, that's what a power chord is. It's a root and a 5th, and therefore the major 6 is here. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is if we're doing a minor pentatonic, that note becomes like our Dorian flavor. So anywhere you can envision a power chord, you can then locate where that Dorian note is. Because a lot of the legwork is, okay, where is that tone? Now, once I've identified that it's an A, now my job is to say, okay, where are the A's in this area? Here's one, and here's one. And so then I'm going to put on this kind of C bluesy kind of vibe. I've got a loop set up, and I'm just going to do minor pentatonic, and I'm just going to add in the note A in these different spots. Hopefully you guys can hear that. There's one. Now that one I love. Bending up to it. We've got this A up here. And then you can lead up chromatically to the Dorian note. So I'm going to pause right there for a second. But the idea is once you get that note kind of figured out, then it just creates such a vibe, you know, that wasn't quite there before. Now, here's something really cool that I've been kind of tripping out over lately is that, you know, if you take your blues scale, let's say I start right here, I'm doing like a C blues. So that alone has a really great vibe to it. It's got a great, you know, bluesy sound, funky sound to it. But then, like, what happens if we add that Dorian note back in? You know, and if you look at that, here's the blue note, and then here's the Dorian note, and then here's the tonic that we're working with. There's our C. So does anybody recognize? I'm going to do that right here again. Here's the blue note from the... There it is. There's the Dorian note. And then there's the root of our chord. Now, does anybody recognize what that is right there? Or one way you could look at it. And then I could go to the minor third of the blues scale. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, man, there's a little delay here, but I'm going to give it a minute. What is that I'm throwing in? I'm going to do it again as I put the jam on. So right here, we got ourselves a little diminished. It's ice, right on. Yeah, totally. It does have that sound to it. Definitely. I'm going to come back to that, the It's Ice reference. Definitely. But one of the interesting things about what I was just showing there is that there's so many different ways you can get to the same spot. So like on one hand, I could say, oh, that's a diminished triad that I just did. On the other hand, I could be thinking of it as, oh no, that's my blues scale plus the Dorian note, and I'm just happening to play it in that sequence. Both things are equally true, and you can get there from either direction. I think that's one of the main takeaways in terms of how to kind of relate to music theory kind of things, is that music theory can tend to open up a lot of arguments amongst people. And I've never really been into that part of it, because to me it just seems like you can get there from so many different places, and it's more of a philosophical thing than any kind of like ultimate truth. Like, it's equally true to say that I'm playing a diminished triad there as it is to say I'm blending together the blues scale and Dorian. So it's kind of cool. You can see the same thing in a different way. Now, let me pause for a second on this mode stuff. Oh, actually, no. I'm going to do one more thing before, and I have more to talk about with the mode stuff. But I'm going to go close up again, and the two main minor modes that you're going to run into, by and large, like 95%, probably even more than 95, probably like 99% of the time, if you're playing a minor mode, it's probably going to either be Dorian. And especially in jammy kind of music, that's the most likely thing. Or number two, it might be Aeolian. And now what I'm going to show is that with what I just kind of mapped out there, you can kind of get 2 for 1, because the only difference between the Dorian note, as I'm calling it, this A natural, and Aeolian is that Aeolian has the minor 6. So think of that A is the major 6, and we had it here, here, and then here. So now, if we want more of an Aeolian vibe, we would just do a semitone beneath that. So now it's an A flat, here's an A flat, and then here's another one. Now, that kind of sound might not work as well with the jam track I have on. Actually, I'm going to try it anyway. I'm going to put in the Aeolian note and mix it with kind of a Mixolydian thing, and let's see how it goes. It's actually kind of cool. And now, the cool thing is, kind of to the point I was making a second ago, I can either think of that as Mixolydian plus the Aeolian note, like it could just be that simple, or you could be thinking to yourself, oh, that's the 5th mode of melodic minor. Like, those things are equally true, and either way you're going to get to where you're going, which is a really cool sound. It adds a little spice, and just another example of that. Okay, now I do want to pause on the mode thing for a second, and now Sneaky Power, you were talking about, let me go back a minute, I'm looking at the comments, how about applying a sequence to 5 patterns? So I'm going to do a thing, and you tell me if I'm on the right path here. Let me see here. Let me see here. So I think what you mean is, let's say we're doing C minor pentatonic. One exercise I've had students do before is take a riff, like I call it the Layla lick. So let's say we're doing C minor pentatonic. And I have them play it in one position, or actually I'll start in the first position. So in that case, it would be down here. So there it is. And then if you go to the second position, there it is there. And then if you go to the third position, let's see, where is it? Then it would be up here. Now this is interesting, because then you have to do a position shift. And then if you go up another position, now you kind of have to approach it differently, because just that's what the position offers. see how that one is fundamentally different than the other ones, and then you're kind of back to where you started. Sneaky Power, there's a little delay, but tell me if that's what you're talking about, where you have the same sequence in different positions. I think that's an excellent exercise. So if that's something you're working on and something you're doing, yeah, man, that's definitely worth the effort. Let me see here. Okay, now back to the mode thing. So the legwork then, with the Dorian versus the Aeolian thing I was just talking about, the legwork would be to go to another position and do the same kind of thing. So I'm going to put the loop back on. Now I'll be in second position of minor pentatonic, and now my job is the same in terms of trying to incorporate those modal tones. Now I'm just in a different spot. So the A is still here and it's still here. It's just going to kind of feel different under the hand because the position's different. So there's that Dorian note right there. Or you could just think of that as major pentatonic. There's that A kind of Dorian. Now, here's a little It's Ice kind of thing. So the It's Ice riff, that is playing off of there's so many different ways you could think of it, but in this application, I'm doing it in a different key, but I'm thinking of like C as my root, and then moving it up to second position and actually playing, I'm thinking of that. This is a good segue into the next part of the mode talk I wanted to get into. I'm envisioning that as an E-flat Lydian style triad. So what I mean by that is if I were just to go like this, that would be an E-flat major triad. And then if I slide the fifth down, that is actually, by sliding that finger down, I'm putting in the raised fourth, which is the Lydian note. Now, the reason this works so well against that C blues vibe is because E-flat is the relative minor, and with a blues, or like a funky blues, you can mix salty and sweet, the major and the minor. And so now I'm going to kind of play off of this, kind of E-flat Lydian kind of thing. And then right here, I want to make a point here. I'm going to just pause it. Here's another spot where you can throw in diminished. I'm playing an A, followed by a C, followed by an E flat. The main point, though, the notes aren't the most important thing. It's where you put that. So if you're doing a bluesy jam kind of thing, find that Dorian note, the major six, and then do diminished pattern off of that, and you'll get a really great kind of vibe to put into your overall sound. So. And then try connecting the two positions. So then I'm going from the second position to the first, and so on. Now, again, I'm not going to go through every position, but the legwork, if you want to work on that, is go to third position. Where's the A? Where's the A flat if you're going to do Aeolian? It's the same kind of thing. Just kind of map that out. You want to kind of map the terrain. It's not that we're, let me switch back here. It's not that we're like making up licks that we're going to bust out during the jam, although sometimes that does happen. It's more about mapping out pathways that you could take, not like a pre-written thing. But again, we're all, I was going to say guilty of that, but I don't even think that's the right way to say it. We all do that. I know Trey certainly does that. Jimmy Page, all my favorite guitarists have like things that I can tell are like little phrases that, it's not that they're like pre-prepared. It's just part of their language. And so it comes out naturally for them. But all of that is an extension of having mapped out certain pathways, certain sounds that they like, certain, it could come, a lot of it comes down to the finger that you want to use. Are you going to slide into it? Are you going to bend into it? That has a really big impact on how you're going to do stuff. So Anyway, using the pentatonic scale as a skeleton and then adding your modal tones in, I think is a really great way to go. Now, everything I did so far, I'm just realizing was all minor pentatonic stuff, but of course it all applies equally for major pentatonic. You just start in a different place. Now, let me do a couple major pentatonic examples adding modal tone in. I'll do Lydian and I'll do Mixolydian for a couple examples. Let's say with C, though. Let's say that I wanted to do like a C major pentatonic, but then blend in a little bit of the Lydian vibe. So if you're in first position of your major pentatonic, let's say you're starting with the middle finger and you're going, you know, that whole pattern like that. Then, you know, it's just like the power chord thing I was saying earlier. If you can envision where that power chord is, the Lydian note is always just a semitone back from the fifth. So if you're doing a power chord like that, and I'm not saying we're just going to bust a power chord out in the jam, although that could be sweet. We're just visualizing it like that and then throwing in this tone. So I might be... And you can see right away, it's not that it's this crazy different sound, but it does definitely have a little bit of a different vibe when you bring in that Lydian note. So it's just that simple. Now, the job then would be, okay, here is an F sharp, got it, and then here's another one. You know, there are these little octave tricks we can use. Yes, John, it is the tritone. 100%, man. That is that sound. And it's cool how the tritone can take on these different feelings depending on the application. A tritone in a dominant chord feels pretty different to me than a tritone in a Lydian style chord. There's just a different vibe that goes with it. So, oh yeah, I was kind of losing my train of thought there. So here's the Dorian note, or sorry, the Lydian note there. And then if you continue, there it is again. And then, you know, do stuff like, you could do like little dyad stuff with it. That kind of vibe, that kind of major pentatonic and peppering in the Lydian note really reminds me of the vibe you might get on a Reba jam. Like that's the kind of thing that tends to happen there is it's mostly major pentatonic based and then there's that little bit of extra modal tone to it. Now, just like I was saying, you would then go to your second position and map that out there. You would do the same thing. Like I was saying for the Dorian stuff, do the same thing for Lydian or Mixolydian. You know, you could go up and say, okay, now I'm up in my next position. And so if you think of that power chord idea, it's really, and the reason I'm bringing that up is it's so easy to see a power chord. It's a really familiar thing. A lot of us probably started out doing songs with power chords, and I know I sure did. And it's just, it's almost like, it feels like home. You know, it's very familiar. And so just by having that extra note in the mix, it creates, hey, what's up, Rex? Thanks for hanging, man. It just gives you a little extra vibe. And so if I'm in second position, and by the way, that's that F sharp again. And it just sounds so cool. You know what's interesting? I didn't even mean to do that, but the other thing is you might get an instinct for where to harmonize that note with. If you look at what I just did there, and this is kind of something fun to play around with, is I was thinking of like a C Lydian kind of vibe, but I ended up, yeah, Timber Ho. I got to do that one. That's a great jam. But what I'm doing is harmonizing that F sharp with a D, because D and F sharp have a special relationship because F sharp is the major, oh, I'm pointing to the wrong thing. F sharp is the major third of D. And so it just works really well together. So even though I might be thinking of major pentatonic for C, I might resolve from that Dorian note like that. And it just has a really cool sound to it. And again, you would then go to your next position, find where's that Lydian note, where can you harmonize it, where can you go to and from. Now, the other really common one, especially for kind of jammy stuff, is mixolydian. So then if you go back to that home bass that I was starting with, let's say you're just doing first position of your major pentatonic, then all you have to do is think to yourself, okay, the mixolydian note is the flat 7. Yeah, Undermined, yes. You know what? Undermined is a song that really has grown on me over time. I got to pop out just for a little fun fish talk. When it first came out, I don't think I appreciated it as much as I should have, but now I love that tune, man. I absolutely love that tune. It's got such a laid back vibe to it, and it's just so funky. I love Fishman on it. But you're right, it does have that kind of vibe to it. Big Boat, yeah, right on. So mixolydian. So what we think to ourselves is, okay, for a mixolydian vibe, we take our major pentatonic, and then here's that root. Just go a whole step back and just pepper that into what you're doing. So you got your major pentatonic, and it just instantly gives almost like that Jerry kind of sound, you know. That's another thing. Like if it's a mixolydian vibe, I'm almost always giving myself permission to throw in the minor third as well. You know. It just is a fun, funky little sound. But again, I'm not memorizing a separate scale, you know, or a scale pattern for mixolydian. I'm just taking the stuff I already know and just using that as a template and then adding that tone in that's going to bring out that vibe. This will work really well with the loop that I have. Sorry about the autofocus, but... And then, you know, away you go. You have this whole funky sound and you don't have to memorize a new scale. That's the main thing. And like everything else, take that vibe, map it out over the other positions, and away you go. You'll never get bored with your playing if you do this kind of stuff where combine that concept of the hinge stuff, like all these different slide points, take that concept, and then take this modal stuff, and then I'm about to show some arpeggio stuff. I already kind of showed a little bit of it with a couple triads, but I find that between just the regular pentatonic, having different hinge points or slide points, having modal tones and arpeggios, it's like infinite fun. Like you can never get bored with that. Okay. So I'm not the only one that it took a while for Undermine to grow on them. Oh, there's my dog barking. That 2012 Dix, if I'm remembering that right, that was a very good run. That was really good. I think the Sunday night show, I remember like it was so good. I was streaming it. I didn't get to see it live, but man, I was very pumped about that show. I can't remember details about what they played, but I remember it was really good. Okay, now I already kind of touched on it a little bit, but the other thing I wanted to share was how powerful it is to just combine the pentatonic form with the arpeggios that live inside of each position. So here's what I mean. I'm going to go back. I'll use C as an example again. Let's go back to minor pentatonic for a second. And all this stuff, you know, the major and minor pentatonic, it's the same stuff, just starting 3 frets back or 3 frets forward. It really all applies the same. So let's say that I'm doing this kind of vibe I was just doing. So if I'm in that kind of vibe, I want to know where C minor arpeggios are and C7 arpeggios, basically. So in first position, this is probably the easiest one to see for minor. You've got a minor 7 right there. And then, so that right there. And you'll notice it's a lot of the same stuff you're doing in the pentatonic, and that's part of the point. It just gels so well with it. And then here's the next octave. And then. So now I'm going to sprinkle in a little. Actually, I'll do the dominant chord as well. So the other thing to look at is if you take that thing that I just did, and just simply play an E natural instead of an E flat, then you'll have more of like a Mixolydian vibe. Whoop. This is something that I've seen Trey do on a lot of tunes. So you start with your index there, and you can do that again. I'm making those 9 chords too, because that's kind of like the back of the train sound when you have a 9 chord. I just love the way that sounds. So I'm going to sprinkle in a little bit of that kind of form with the minor one over this kind of funky loop. So it's just really fun stuff to combine those elements together. So in the thing I was just doing there, I'm kind of envisioning those chord forms I was just showing, envisioning the pentatonic, that's for sure, and then just adding in a little bit of maybe a Dorian flavor or maybe a little bit of that Mixolydian tone. And I don't know, I just could go for days with that stuff and never get bored. Now, moving on from that position, there's another form that I think is underutilized that I think can be really helpful in your lead playing and your rhythm playing too. And it's this kind of form. Trey does this kind of thing a lot. And I've heard people say Dave Matthews does this a lot. I don't listen to a lot of his music, but I feel like I could see that because he doesn't do a lot of typical chord voicings. But this is just a first inversion of a C chord. And then here's a minor version of that as well. This is something that Trey uses all the time in so many different tunes, this kind of chord voicing. And then again, the minor one's a little less frequent, but definitely very usable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the track, and I'm not just going to start strumming that, but I'm looking at that chord form as like pins on a map that I can target and land on or head to or head away from. So we've got this kind of thing. Let me do that again really close up so you can really see that. And then if you just move back one, you'll get the minor counterpart of that. And so now you'll have stuff like... And I'm combining all these things together that I've been talking about so far. So when I was doing that, I'm doing some kind of like leading up into my major third, and then a little minor kind of thing, a little Mixolydian. You got the major 6 in there, so you've got a lot of stuff you can play around with. And then you can mix it with, then I threw in this E flat kind of Lydian thing. So you just get a lot of mileage out of these little simple forms. I find that a lot of the stuff I have the most fun with are little simple forms that you just tie together in creative ways. So there's nothing fancy there. It's just these really simple shapes. It's just about how can we squeeze some music out of them. And then if you move up, let's go up another position. Let's say we slide from right here up into the more this 12th fret position. Well, in this zone up here, you're going to have your C shape. 4C, and then the minor version of that. Oh, and you know what? Let me make that a dominant version because that's what I was doing for the other one. And you can start on the E string. I'm just starting on the root of the chord, but you could go like that. I'm going to start on the root though, just to keep it simple. So here I'm going to do a dominant arpeggio by throwing in the flat 7, then. And then the minor one is the same thing, just with E flat instead of E natural. So here's an E flat and here's an E flat. So now I'm just going to go. And I'm going to put the track on and play around with those arpeggios. Now I did major and minor. I'm going to do it again. Especially if you do Dorian. Yeah, it's just so fun, man. These little simple forms really come in handy. Now, of course, you don't always, probably want to run it up and down, kind of like the intro to You Enjoy Myself. It's more about grabbing a piece of it. So for me, I really like this diminished part that lives inside of a dominant chord. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do this again because I'm feeling like I'm just scratching the surface of what I want to say. There's so much more, but we'll keep these things going regularly. But inside of every dominant chord, there's diminished living inside of it, starting on the major third, the fifth, or the flat seven. And there's just so much room to explore there because with diminished things, you can slide up and do everything in a symmetrical kind of way, which really lends itself to getting things flowing and creating a lot of tension and a lot of release. So at any rate, one thing, I ended up doing on the fly when I was jamming there a second ago is instead of doing a minor 7 arpeggio, like I said at first, I did a minor 6. So I'm basically taking that A that we were talking about earlier with the Dorian vibe and putting that into this arpeggio. And that again kind of sounds like it's ice. Notice I'm starting minor, and then major. Yeah, just really fun stuff. Let's move up a little bit. Now, this is, I'm going from like this 12th fret position, and I'm going to move up here to 15th fret. Now this zone right here, it's kind of like resetting where everything started, where I was talking about this kind of arpeggio. Let me do that more slowly. And I was doing a 9 and then going back and doing another 9. So if you're up here, you just kind of do the same stuff. Now, because of the B string, we have to adjust a little bit. So let me do that again. There's always a little caveat with that B string, but what I'll say is in this, I'm going to jam over this in a second. This little zone right here that could be like looked at as a little bit of a problem zone because it's a little different and we have to change it. One thing I'd like to do at that spot is switch to the minor pentatonic. It just fits that vibe so well, like that would be something like this. So hopefully you get the idea of how you can mix and match. I mean, and let me click back here for a second. And at no point am I like tethered at all to it being major or minor. I'm just kind of like, whatever, kind of wherever it goes is cool. Now, it depends on the application. It depends on what kind of jam you're doing. Like if you're doing a sand jam, for example, the dominant chord thing probably, at least in that situation, wouldn't quite sound right because everybody else is playing everything really minor based. It's not to say you couldn't do dominant chord stuff, but you wouldn't do it on the root in the same kind of way. So you always have to listen to what is the vibe. Are you playing on a vamp? Is it a chord progression where you have to keep track of the changes? I'm going to have more to talk about with playing to changes. I think I'm going to do a lesson with AC/DC bag, and probably Sample in a Jar would be another good one to do this with, where in tunes like that, you kind of can't just go into autopilot with one sound. You kind of have to move with the chords a little more and play to the changes, which voice leading is a really great way to do that. That's something I've been really working on and digging into for myself and with students as well. And I'll do some stuff on that. But I thought AC/DC bag and Sample in a Jar, playing the lead over that would be good ways to practice that kind of thing. Anyway, actually, let me stop blathering for a second and see if you guys have any comments, any questions. And I'll give it a second. Let me catch up. I might be behind here on the comments. And again, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I'm going to give it a few more minutes here hanging out. And then, like I said, we'll do this again. We'll have to definitely do more of these. But yeah, let me know, like, where do you guys feel like your strong points or weak points are with pentatonic work, or what do you think or even it's just like, what would you like to see lessons on? I love getting your guys' feedback. And let me also do this. I'm gonna, I think I've got this copied in here. I did say if you guys were hanging out with me to the end, I was going to drop a little something for you guys. So let me do that right now. Copy. Let me come back. Let me see if I can do this. Will it let me? Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm putting a Dropbox link. This is the book that I wrote. It's like 180 pages of stuff that I think is really useful in terms of how I think of fingerings for scales and some of this pentatonic stuff and a bunch of stuff. So I'm leaving that link up. I'm leaving this live stream up, but that link will expire after tomorrow. That's for you guys for being live with me. I really appreciate that. So boom, that should be in the comments. Let me know if that works or not, but you can download the whole book. Let me know what you think. I hope it's helpful for you. That I really wrote that and created the course that I made exactly for the kinds of issues I was seeing a lot with students. Just like it was a lot of recurring kind of stuff, and it really inspired me to want to help people with that because I want people to have fun. I want them to be able to jam. Yeah, man. I'm so happy to do it. It's funny. One thing I found from working with people doing fish stuff online, whether it be private lessons, just hanging out with people on streams, or with the course that I'm doing. One thing I hear from people a lot is like, man, there aren't too many people in my area I can really jam with or talk about that are fish fans or jam band fans. And so it's cool to find like-minded people that just kind of get the vibe of, there's a certain kind of a spirit of the music, a certain kind of sound that goes with it. It's really cool to have you guys hanging out with me. Sample. Oh, okay. Let's see. Joshua's saying, "Oh, please sample. Love that solo." Lotus, thank you so much, man. Thank you for the kind words. I'm happy to help. I'm so happy to help. Oh, is that Jeff? I think Jeff is just coming in. Been working with Jeff for a little bit. He's in my course, which is really cool. Oh, are you saying you're working on Fluffhead? I don't know how to say your username. Q Beanses. If you're working on Fluffhead, man, good for you, and be steadfast with it. It's so worth the effort. It's such a fun tune. I haven't played that in a long time, but man, did that challenge me. That's my favorite part about learning Trey's music is that you just what's up, Jeff? It's so good to have you on board, man. What I was saying is the thing I love most about learning Fish's music and Trey's stuff in particular is it really, like, baked into it. It kind of forces you to pick up these new tools and techniques just to be able to play it. Tim, what's up, man? What's up, Tim? Always good to see the fellows. Yes, I'm trying. Okay, cool, man. Yeah, keep going, man. Fluffhead is worth it, man. It's a monster of a tune, though. Would love a video on Fluff. Oh, like a long form. Do you mean like a long form breakdown? I have a lesson on that, like a scroll through one, but I never did a breakdown one. What I'm finding these days, some of you guys have noticed, some lessons I never explained or did breakdowns on. So I'm going back to some old stuff. It is pretty complicated, man. It's insane. Sometimes I wonder what on earth were they thinking, coming up with this stuff. But I'm sure glad they did. Anyway, I'll give it a couple more minutes here, fellas. Yeah, let me see here. Also, I want to drop a thing here too. Let me see here. Oh, I think I missed a comment. I'm juggling here. Okay, you're saying, yeah, you'd like to see a long form. Okay, cool. Give me a minute to brush the cobwebs off and refresh myself. Haven't played that probably since I did the lesson for it, which was that was maybe like a few years ago. So I'm gonna be rusty, but I'll look at it and I'll get back to you on that one. I also want to do a bit of a shameless plug for my course. I just want to leave a link for you guys. I know look, I know people are always trying to sell you guys on on YouTube and stuff, but like I said, it's just like-minded people that are working on their technique, working on their craft, working on music they love, and I think it's worth checking out. You know, it really is made just for our kind of people, you know, jammy guys. I'm going to drop a link. You guys can check out the page. Really what it comes out to is it's like $12 a month to have 2 live sessions like this every week. We do it. This kind of conversation, and it's even better in there because I actually get to see people and we actually get to talk to each other. But it's kind of like this, twice a week. We're working on it. We have great conversations. We've been talking about voice leading, diminished stuff, the family of chords concept I've been talking about lately, mode stuff, pentatonic stuff. So check that stuff out if you guys are looking for something to really dig into with like-minded people. And as always, if you guys have stuff you want me to work on more, you know, I always want to know what songs are people wanting to see a lesson on that I haven't done. I know one of them is Slave to the Traffic Light. I never finished that. I'm like halfway through it, and I just I hit a wall. I don't know if you guys ever have run into that, transcribing a song where you get far and then it's like, it almost feels like if for any hikers or mountain climbers, like the false summit thing, where you get to a certain point and you're like, shoot, I thought that was kind of the end, and it isn't, and you have to really push. And I'm at that point with Slave to the Traffic Light, so I got to finish it, from a live one, I mean. But yeah, leave comments on stuff you want to see a lesson on, and I'll make it happen. Right on. Well, guys, I'll give it just a second. Like I said, there's always a little delay for me with comments, but otherwise, like I said, we'll do this again. And I can't believe I forgot to say, if I do another live stream, what would a topic be that you would like to see a lesson on? Like, this could be so many different things. It could be like we dig into modes more, or maybe it's a song. Like maybe I do a live stream and I'm just kind of explaining how to play a song. What is Q Factor? Okay, that's a good question. Q Factor is the name that I've given. No, that's Jeff asking. He's enrolled in the course. I realized I didn't have a name for the approach that I take. So Jeff, since you're familiar with it, you know how I do the 3-fingering kind of approach for just about everything, and I've had this saying, all things are in all places at all times. So the Q is really for quantum. It's like everything is all over the place. It's kind of some of what I was showing tonight, and it's all about mapping that stuff out. So that's just the name that I give to the approach. Okay, John, I'll check out. You did another link for some shredding. Julian, I can't believe I'm so late. Sorry, Julian. Listen, I'll do it again, though. Let me see here. Come back next time. Yeah, I think I'm going to do it again in a couple weeks. We'll see how it goes. It seems like you guys were all hanging, and hopefully you got something out of it. But please leave a comment on what you would like to see a stream on next time. These are cool because we can interact in real time. Yeah, that PDF should be downloadable. If it's not, let me know, and I'll. If you guys are having issues, it's a pretty big file, so maybe it takes a minute. But yeah, it is downloadable. It's yours. You guys, I appreciate you guys so much. You took the time on a Friday night to come hang out with me. So yeah, that's for you guys. But right on, guys. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. And I hope you guys accomplish everything you're setting out to with your guitar goals. I've got your back if you need me, if you have questions. fishguitarlessons@gmail.com. Leave comments. Let me know. Really, my aim is to do what you guys want more of. And it's the best ever. This has really been a fun journey doing this channel, and so more to come. So yeah, have a really good night, guys. Leave questions, comments, suggestions, whatever. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon.